Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Speed Force Racing. And after all the drama, all the heartbreak of Season 19, Div 1, Div 2, and Div 3, we reset once again. 10 short rounds, and it's a short season, so no time to settle in. Every single race matters from the very beginning, and it all starts here at the iconic Australian Grand Prix. And last season in Division 1, it belonged to Fireblaze. Finally getting the championship he's been chasing since the past 3 seasons he's been here in SFR. And after all the consistency, near misses, and painful moments, he held his nerve across the campaign and delivered when it mattered the most. And now the question completely changes. Who in this Division 2 is going to be crowned champion? Last season's champion was Langfell, and he absolutely dominated last season, smashed at the ballpark with 10 wins and 14 podiums to his name, but obviously he's not here. And we've got a completely different format too, as it is one-shot qualifying, a short burst of a sprint race, and the feature race, which is 29 laps around this sunny, iconic Australian Grand Prix, known for its fastest street circuit on the calendar, and the walls are very close. It's a semi-street circuit, but it's still spectacular to watch, and still one of the greatest opening races to begin with, because it used to be Bahrain and alternated with Australia. My name is Jamie Morris, and alongside me is Milan Langer, and the iconic English and Dutch duo is back.
Indeed it is, and it's been a while, especially for me, since I've been in SFR. It's been majority one-off appearances so far for me in SFR, but hopefully this season that will change. This short season, I will be here a lot more along the season. We've got one-shot qualifying, so names are all over the place at the moment. It is Klusser in the Ferrari was leading, but one-shot qualifying is quite difficult, I must say so myself, because you have one lap, the pressure is on, and it's so easy to make a mistake, especially on a track like this, and track invalidations could come soon as well for these drivers. But at the moment, Ferrari has kept it in the lead ahead of the Red Bull. Let's see how these drivers tackle on this new challenge for this brand new season.
Indeed, then on board with Klausler, he's exchanging with Matty as we flick through the high-speed turn on in turn 10. Goes a bit wide at turn 10, but nevertheless still makes it within the track limits, which is very important around here as well. How much risk do you go and take around, especially a track like this? Maximum risk, maximum attack for these guys as Klausler uses all the chalk on the outside. Matty is his competitor alongside him as those two keep exchanging places with George in P3 and Keith in P4. As Ronnie now switching up the order to P4. Klusler rounds the final corner. He just overtook Matty. Oh dear.
Have you go as well?
Yeah, I did go. Did you go?
You've been disconnected.
Are you still in the lobby?
No, I got disconnected halfway through the lap.
I think the stream's still going.
And we both got kicked out. Wow.
Yep. Usual internet.
How does that even happen?
I have no idea. Usual internet. Basically, if you haven't been with us, me and Milan Langer have been, our internets have been absolutely shocking. So hopefully I get back in the session for you guys. I am in this session, but it won't let me press triangle.
Can you invite me as well when you can?
I might have to restart the stream again because it says communicating with online service and I can't get out of it. Oh, now I can.
I'm in already.
Apologies for the hiccup there. I think it was Klausler who took pole position, and he is a very handy driver indeed, a Div 2 driver. And I think he is on pole then, as I was there. I think my mate Klausler got pole. Yep, I think he did. Did the Dutchman, who was driving in Division 1 and Division 2 as well, picked up 2 podiums last season in Division 2. And last season's champion, Langfall, is here. Like I mentioned, the man has got 10 wins and 14 podiums to his name. He is in the chart. And I'm gonna switch to my mobile data. So let me just get that up to try and shift things along. So turn my hotspot on and hopefully everything will be okay because apparently my internet's gone a bit kabooey. But we move on to the sprint qualifying and the sprint race itself. Sorry, I'm just trying to do multiple things here at once. So I am a bit distracted and occupied at the moment. My phone is also playing up as well. So not a good sign, and it's not a really. It is a common appearance, unfortunately, because my internet has gone a bit haywire, so it hasn't worked in my favour for some reason. Atlas Copa, looking forward to SFR combat tomorrow. Atlas Copa, of course, a former Div 2 driver as well, and he has picked up wins and podiums himself too. And there's a lot of familiar names as well circulating around in the paddock, and I know I've been a long time on SFR. I do miss commentating for Div 2 and Div 1, but unfortunately I do have other commitments too. So yeah, I can't unfortunately do Div 2. It was amazing to be there because there was loads of drivers who were excelling, loads of drivers who were doing well, multiple drivers winning and being on the podium. Great battles indeed, and a great atmosphere. I dare say better than Div 1. I think the harmony was. I think the atmosphere was much better in Div 1. But here we go then for the sprint race. It is a formation lap, so there is a bit of time to breathe and think. So there is only 10 laps around this Grand Prix, so every single driver is on the midi compound tyres except BTL Wakey Joe, who has started on the hard compound tyre, which is quite bizarre indeed, considering there's only 10 laps, and the midi compound tyres could definitely take those to the end of the Div 2 champion season before Langfell. Don't call me a random. Well, Atlas Copo, I definitely know you're a great driver indeed. Don't worry, mate. I've seen the astonishing things you've done in the past as well, so I definitely haven't forgotten you. But 18 drivers then in this session. Matty is on pole position, a former race winner, former champion of SFR as well, currently on first place. So it wasn't Klausler who took pole position. And Dylan is in the chat too. The Div 1 runner-up. He finished P2 behind Fireblades. What a sensational season for Dylan Vince. I'm sorry I wasn't there to commentate it, but he has done extraordinary. Climbed his way through the ranks in Division 2. I think he picked up 2 wins in Division 2, season 18. Then season 19 he came in and teammates with Velocev Jr. even beat him as well, as Velocev Jr. was the driver who had high hopes, especially in the last couple of rounds as well. But all the drivers then making their way towards the starting grid, then ready for this sprint race. And let's see what happens around here at Albert Park. Of course, turn 1 can be caused and be known by drama. 2002, when I think it was Barrichello who hit the back of Ralf Schumacher, and there was a multi-car crash down at turn 1 as well. We saw back in 2009, I think, when it was Mark Webber, Kovalainen and Barrichello involved in an incident as well, along with Nick Heidfeld and the Sauber. 2010 with Button, Schumacher and Alonso as well. There's been so much first lap contact, even recently as 2023, when I think the 2 Alpines, Nick de Vries, Logan Sargent, all got taken out at turn number 1. But here we go then, the light's about to go away as Matty will lead them down in towards turn 1, and the sprint race is underway then. Matty gets a decent launch off the line. Klausler is a bit stranded there under pressure from George, who's alongside him as we head down in towards turn 1 we go. And he saw our major players making moves in the background. There's a bit of contact, and I think a Haas driver has gone down the order. That is unfortunately Shot, who has unfortunately gone down the order as we head down in towards the first break. So the turn number 3 we go. Anyone looking for a move down the inside in towards turn 3. There's a racing ball trying to overtake Mercedes, but he has to bail out and stay behind for the time being. A clean getaway for mostly all our drivers here as we've got Wakey Yo side by side. There's contact with his teammate, and he has lost his end plate too for good measure, and he will be losing all points of downforce in the Alpine too. So unfortunately the end plate has been lost already there for the RP driver, but so far Matty retains the lead as we see there. I think we've got a racing bull alongside a Ferrari. That's Keith. Keith unfortunately has got damage there sustained to his Ferrari, and that'll be detrimental for his sprint race indeed. But you've got to be very patient as well. Oh, there's a Haas making contact, and he goes off into the grass as well for good measure. He just clipped, I think, the racing bull driver. But I think going down in towards turn 11 now, Matty still leads. He's got a 5-10 advantage over Klausler, the Dutchman in P2. There's an Aston Martin up the inside there. That is Mr. Wiggles trying to wiggle his way through Alex Haug, but the door was firmly shut in his face. But the Aston Martin driver looking to do a switchback as we head on to lap 2 of the Grand Prix. DRS will be enabled for the first time in this race. Here comes Mercedes down the inside too, but the door is firmly shut in his face there. Energy Dan That is Mercedes of, let me get my thing up. There we go. Calvid, who can't get past in towards turn 1 and has to stay in P9 for the time being. But Matty still leads at a Klausler, but for how much longer with the DRS wide open now as the Ferrari pursues him?
Definitely a clean start for the majority of the drivers at the front and the midfield and the back. Not so much a few drivers going off, including Williams of Night Creed. He was facing the wrong way at the exit of turn 1, but Klosser, he has got the DRS, but I think he's not quite close enough to make a move just yet. He is closing in though, but there's another DRS zone upcoming after this chicane, so he needs to get a good exit out of it to try and go for a move, but the Red Bull is going quite cleanly through there as well, so I think he's going to have to stay behind for the time being. But he is hunting down that Red Bull driver. He's in between the two Red Bull drivers, as Apex is right behind, as Billy has seemed to have lost quite a few places. Might have gone off in the chicane right behind him. That's the Haas, trying to go for the move. He's up ahead of the Williams driver there. He was one of the drivers who went off as well on the opening up. Quite a messy opening up in the midfield, but it seems to have settled down a little bit now as we go on to lap 3. With Matty leading, but faster laps are coming in from all the drivers behind. Now from Ronnie in P4 in the McLaren. He is followed by the Aston Martin of Doran. Then it's a bit of a gap towards the Mercedes. He has lost out 1.4 seconds, already losing the connection towards the top 5 as that is the Red Bull of Matty going all over the inside curb there in the braking zone of turn 3, a little bit wide there out there as well, so he might be in a bit of trouble as we head towards the next DRS zone. And could this be an opportunity for Klesser to take away the lead of this race once again? If he gets a very good exit out of there, now he's going to have to use the battery, and he will have DRS. There's no battery left in that Red Bull, so this is the opportunity. Here comes the Ferrari. He's going to go to the outside, and it's going to be an easy overtake as Klesser will take the lead of this sprint race here on lap 3. The Matty slots in behind, but he goes a little bit deep in towards the chicane. Now will be under pressure from his teammate as well, but gets a decent enough exit, but he does not have the DRS. Here comes the Red Bull, looking to go to the inside potentially, but it stays with just a look, and he is going to have to sit behind for the time being. But we have got a new race leader. Klesser now 0.8 of a second ahead of Matty, trying to pull that gap away immediately with the ERS advantage, and it's almost 0.9 of a second, but Matty has done just enough to stay within the ERS range.
Great move for Klaus there, but Matty is already slipping out almost out of DRS range there, so he's trying desperately to keep the connection with Klaus to have the DRS at the back of him and potentially look for a move later on this Grand Prix. There is still 6 laps left to go in this race there, so Matty's got time to try and coordinate attack against the Ferrari driver. He does have his teammate behind him, Apex George, in P3 in the Red Bull then, so he does have a bit of a rear gunner in P3, so don't have to worry about him for the time being. The two Alpines though still going head to head down into towards turn 3 we go. These two will not give up against each other as Wakio is on the hard compound tyres with his teammate on the medium compound tyres. Wakio trying to stay ahead of his teammates, but it's going to be a bit difficult with him on the hard compound tyres, not being able to try and get the grip he needs out of the corners there to try and pull away from his teammates as at last, this is a sprint race, by the way. There is 6 laps left to go in this race, not 28. Here comes the Alpine, and oh, there's a crash, and the Haas is in a sandwich, and the Haas got spun around there too. And unfortunately, he was a cork in a bottle there as he was, just basically wedged against both Alpine drivers, and he could not, escape, unfortunately. That was a bit of a, silly move to go in the middle of them both, because there was no way there was going to be any space at all, and paid the consequences for that. However, the gap at the front of the field is 8, 9 tenths already as well, so Klausler is trying to break the DRS against Matty, but Matty used the DRS to get himself closer and closer towards Klausler with this second DRS open up. I do apologise about the revs limited there, as unfortunately it's an issue, as we see Salgueiro up into P10 ahead of the Racing Bull driver, as we see shots out of the Grand Prix. Alex Howell gets past Pev 1 as he goes around the outside. Further up, there's a battle going on here. Oh, McLaren in the wall, like it was with Robert Kubica and Sebastian Vettel when those two came to blows back in 2009, but luckily no further ramifications between those two. Alex Haag has lost a place towards Pev 1 now. Doran is in P5, but he's about to overtake, I think, the McLaren driver. He has the DRS on the back of the McLaren, and this should be a simple pass, or is it? Because he's still alongside, going through turn number 9. But unfortunately for him, he has to stay behind as McLaren of running goes off the track. There's too much speed through the corner, and Doran slips his way past. He goes up into P4 now, does the Aston Martin. Great drive, by the way, for Doran in P4. Then we are halfway in towards this Grand Prix, and McLaren spun, and he's hit the wall. He's out of the Grand Prix. Alex Haug is out of this race. Is this going to be a safety car? It is not going to be a safety car. So the drivers at the back of the field were hoping to try and get closer, but I think the McLaren driver unfortunately picked up the throttle way too early, spun out and crashed in the wall, and he is out of the Grand Prix. It is very easy to drop it on the exit of turn 11 because it's a slow speed corner. You're trying to get back to the power as quickly as you can to break traction, as MEFC has retired from this race too. So 3 people are out of the Australian Grand Prix, but luckily for them there is a sprint feature race coming up, so they've got 29 laps to try and make up some ground if they can. But Klausler though, he's got a sizable advantage over Matty in P2, keeping him at arm's length, and the gap is 9/10. Matty is struggling to keep a contention of Klausler. This is really good for Klausler's bid to win this Grand Prix. And what about Apex George? Has he got any pace to try and get towards Klausler? Well, the 2 Red Bull drivers work together, but if Matty does slip out of DRS range, and he's under massive pressure from his teammate behind George as well, so George might fancy a piece of the action here as we head down in towards turn 11. If Matty loses the DRS, could we see an orchestrated swap between the 2 Red Bull drivers?
We might see that, but it's Apex George now who's lost the advantage because he's now over 1 second behind his teammate, so he must have made a mistake going into the braking zone there. And now it is his teammate Matti who was just outside DRS range, but it was just before the detection point where it was still within 1 second, so he's just about got that DRS as we go on to lap 7, but Klasser out in front is really comfortably out in front, but the gap behind is still not over 1 second, and he's so close every single time to keep that Red Bull out of DRS, but every single time Matti is doing just enough to stay within DRS, and around a track like this with 4 DRS zones, it's just relatively easy for him to stay put towards that Ferrari. But we have still got 3 more laps to go after this. The gap is once again 0.6 of a second. Apex George has just got back within DRS range of his own teammate as well, but he runs out a little bit wide there. Can't do that too often, or he will pick up a 3-second time penalty and will definitely be out of contention for the race win as the gap 0.6. Matti now once again with the DRS. He will have the double DRS, and he's getting really close down to the back of Klasser, who's only got around 25% left in the battery, but he goes way quicker there through the chicane, and it's Matti who's losing a lot of time on every single lap through that very high speed chicane, and now is unable to make that move heading towards the braking zone. And Apex George right behind still once again just outside 1 second, so he himself is also struggling to stay close to his teammate. And right behind it's the fight continuing on between Doran and Ronnie, who we saw have a moment a few laps ago. I think it was through turn 6 or turn 5 where they both almost went into the wall, but they have kept it out of the wall, kept without damage, and still fighting out for that P4 position. We've got 3 laps remaining in this sprint race. The gap is once again 0.6 of a second, but what Matti needs to focus on is getting the right line through turns 9 and 10, because that is where the advantage lies for Klasser in the Ferrari ahead. He can get close to the Ferrari in these first couple of corners to around 0.6 of a second, but then he will lose that advantage halfway down the back straight. Once again 0.7 of a second, if not close enough to make a move down this straight, but of course he would want to wait until the final lap, because you've got 4 DRS zones. If he overtakes him before, then he will definitely lose the position once again, and going on to that final lap of the race once again, closing in on the Ferrari driver down to around 3/4 of a second. Now we go through turns 9 and 10 again. You can see Clutch just pulling away through turn 9, but he goes a little bit deep on the exit, but still has created the gap of 5/4 of a second, just enough to keep the Red Bull driver at bay.
Indeed it is. There is 2 laps to go after this one, so Matti needs to get a move on if he wants to retake the lead of the Grand Prix where he lost it on lap 2. But Klausler in defence mode is saving as much battery as he can, because he knows the anticipated attack is coming later on. He's trying everything he can to repent this, but look at George getting closer and closer towards Matti in P2 as Matti's trying to hold on to the back of Klausler. You can see him breaking the slipstream as we go down in towards turn 1. There is 2 laps left to go in this race. Can Matti fight against Klausler? Klausler seems like he's very strong, like you said, through turn 9 and turn 10. So Matti tried to, well, let's see what he can try and do against Klausler. There is 4 DRS zones around here, so surely you think that Matti try and look for a move somewhere, maybe down at turn 11 or before turn 9. But as you can see, just teeters on the edge of that 1 second mark between himself and Klausler. The Dutchman doing a really good job here in SFR, pulling away from Matti. He's actually broken the DRS right now, so could this give because this could be George overtaking Matty there. He's got the DRS on the back of his teammate, and surely, simply, he should walk past him. And he does. He goes up into P2 now. Could he be the one to hunt down closer? He's stuck in the back of his teammate's gearbox all this race, but finally he's been released, and we'll see what he could do. Gets another dose of DRS as well. In P2 on the mid-car power tyre. The gap is 5 tenths, so he's under a second. Could George be in a position to win this race ahead of Klausler, the Dutchman, versus the Brit here, and Wakio in P2 on the hardcore power tyres? Hasn't worked out for him whatsoever. Not quite sure why he went to the hardcore power tyres, but it was a choice that he made, and unfortunately for him, it hasn't paid off. But Klausler would be defended like it is his race of his life, because it is the last lap of the Grand Prix here in the sprint race, and George is right behind Klausler. Where will he look for a move? Not down at turn 2 because it'll be unwise. Maybe down at turn 9, maybe down at turn 11. But he's got 2 more DRS zones after this. Save the battery and attack him later on in those straights. Klausler, however, has got to keep it nice and clinical, especially in his first set, to try and save some battery up and use it and burn all the energy down the 2 straights. And I definitely think he'll do that too. Same with George as well in attack mode. We'll try and burn all of his battery to get close towards Klausler. The gap is 7 tenths of a second. Is 7 tenths going to be enough to repel the attack against George? Here we go, then the main critical moment in this race. The DRS is wide open. Can George get close enough? I don't think the answer is going to be no. Too far back. One more chance though is down at turn 11, but Klausler, I think, he's got the edge over George, and I don't think there's nothing George can do unless he goes for a massive dive bomb, but he won't do that. To be wise and stay behind him. Klausler, however, keep it nice and tidy now. He can't afford to make mistakes. All the hard work has been done. You just got to keep it nice and tidy in these final couple of corners. Klausler defend on the inside there, thinking George might send on the inside. But here we go, out of the final corner we go. It's going to be so close, but I think Klausler has done enough. Here comes the Dutchman. The Dutchman will win the Australian Grand Prix. Is a double Red Bull podium, and Ronnie just got ahead of Doran. He moves himself up into P4. Doran, the former podium, the runner-up of SFR Division 3, I think it is, a couple of seasons ago, finishes in P5, Preb 1 in P6, Mr. Wiggles in P7 ahead of Calvid in P8, and yeah, there goes your top 10 then, with Wakey Joe in P10. I'm very sorry, I can't pronounce the guy's name in P9, so I do apologise about that one. But what a super close finish that was between Klausler and George. Klausler just did enough there to defend against George. I thought for 1 second George might have a sneak and a peek up the inside, but Klausler managed to defend beautifully against him and keep the win. The Dutchman then wins this sprint race, and we'll see what happens in the future race.
Yeah, Klausler really pulled that off to perfection. A great sprint race from him. Overtook Matty early on, and then kept that lead, and he kept that advantage every single lap, just enough to keep the Red Bulls right behind him. And like you said, I thought for a moment that Apex George might have a chance on that final lap, but Klausler on every single lap was just so strong through turns 9 and 10, and was able to fend off the attack from both Red Bull drivers and did what he needed to do. So an ideal start to his evening, with maximum points in the sprint race. But now we will get towards the real event, the main race, where real points are awarded. So let's see if we can keep that momentum going, and end up on that top spot on the podium once again in the feature race. I think we will have another qualifying session. I would assume another one-shot qualifying session. So we'll see how that is going to unfold. But indeed, it was. Actually, I don't think we have. Yes, we have another one-shot qualifying session. So back-to-back one-shot qualifying sessions. It was Matthew who took pole position for the sprint race. Let's see if he can do that again, and maybe then put him in a nice position to once again fight for the race lead in the 29-lap race that is upcoming.
Look at the Div 3 Championship here as well, and Calvid and the OWR driver. They tied with John Moves on 300 points. John Moves never won a race last season. He had 7 podiums, but no wins. And Calvin had 6 wins and 8 podiums. So I'm wondering how John Moves managed to get that gap tied up. But I think it was because of Calvin's bad results in the past. But John Moves almost won the championship. But during countback, it was Calvin who managed to win the championship. It was a very close finish indeed in Division 3 last season. Mr. Wiggles in P3 with 273 points, and Prep 1 was P4 with 248 points, and Doran in P5 as well. So it is another one-shot qualifying. Here we go then. It's all reset, and we'll see which driver could take pole position. I'm going to go on board with the man that won the sprint race, and I think it is Klausner. Where is he right now? I'm trying to look for him. Let's see where he is. P7 right now. And let's go on board with him, see how he does. It keeps changing. He moves up into second place now. There we go. I found him coming through the left-hander of turn 5. Nice exit coming through turn 6. Kazuki Nakajima smashing the wall back in 2008 there, I think it was. And Sebastian Vettel too also put it in the wall in 2022 or 3. It was 2022, I think it was, on the return to Australia because he didn't have any laps. He had COVID back in Bahrain and Saudi. Nico Hulkenberg replaced him, and Sebastian Vettel barely did any laps as well because the Aston Martin kept breaking down. But Klausner coming through turn 9 and turn 10, we go, flicks the car in and carries the speed all the way through. He's been very strong. He catapulted from third to first already as well through 10 and turn 10, so he's super confident. And Calvin is up into P2 in the Mercedes. Last season's F3 or Division 3 championship, let's say, is up into P2. Keith, a much better performance for him as he moves on to P4. Picks up damage at the opening round of the sprint race. But here comes Klausner coming towards the final corner, keeping it nice and tidy. Shots there with P2 as well. And let's see what the lap time is there for Klausner. He crossed the line right now. It's going to be a 16.8. And look at the gap, over 3 tenths quicker than Matty in P2. Once again, I think it's the same order between Klausner and Matty, so they share the front row. But this time, Klausner is the one that takes pole position because Matty was the one that took it in the sprint race. And now Matty starts second place, and maybe he may get a slice of the cherry in the feature race. But here, this is the results then. Klausner in first place ahead of Matty. Calvert in P3 ahead of Keith. Mr. Wiggles in P5 ahead of Doran. Ronnie Short, Apex George in P9, so a horrendous one-shot qualified for him. Prev 1, Night Creed, Oreo Glass in P12, Energy Dan, BTL, Wakey Joe in P14, Ferrari Fat Boy in 15th ahead of MEFC, Billy G, and Alex Haug. Alex Haug will start last place then, so what a dismal turnout to be for the Norwegian driver in 18th place there because he crashed out, didn't he, in turn 11 in the sprint race, and he starts last place here as well. So the Australian Grand Prix for him is not going as planned, but certainly for the Dutchman in first place, Klausner, who takes pole position, and he's a very, very popular figure around here in SFR as well. Been here for quite a long time as well. He's been regularly a Div 2 driver, and he has partaken in Division 1 as well, but as a reserve driver because we needed the numbers up. So he's a well-known driver. He's a very nice guy indeed. Is Klausner. I don't think he's won any championships yet here in SFR, but he's certainly picked up the race wins, a few race wins, not a lot, and a few podiums too, for good measure. And Alex Howe says handicap permit, yes. Well, it's unfortunate there, Alex, but hopefully you get better soon. Klausner didn't pick up any wins, sadly, last season. In season 19, he only picked up 2 podiums then, but he did finish in P4 in the championship ahead of Adams, who did pick up 2 wins and 6 podiums. Adams as well, another spectacular driver. He's been here for such a long time, a former Div 2 champion, I think, all the way back to season 9, if I'm not mistaken, in Division 2. So he's been around the joint for a long time, and so have I, because I made my appearance here back in 2018, believe it or not. I was a driver here before I became a commentator. I did leave for quite a long period of time, but I rejoined in F1 2023 and became a commentator since then. And I know I haven't been around in Division 1 due to the attendance because, as you can see from a commentator's point of view, it is demotivating and a waste of time with the attendance, to be brutally honest with you, and that's why I didn't commentate. But it's nice to have good attendance around here, nice to be back in this similar situation where I've been here before to commentate for a well-known league, and it's been around since God knows how long, since what, 2015, 16, if I want to go further back than that, maybe 2017 when it first started. But this league has had a lot of history, a lot of champions, a lot of astonishing drivers who used to race here and now in F1 esports. But the light's about to go away for the formation lap. Believe it or not, Isaac Hadjar used to race here too. I raced against him back in Silverstone back in 2020, but that's when I picked up my podium here in Silverstone. Or I picked up 1 podium back in Silverstone in F1 2019 or F1 2020, and that was a long time ago. But I recently became a race winner here in SFR, and that was last season. I beat Fireblaze, I beat Velocio Jr., I beat Dylan Vince, and I finally picked up a race win. My first one since F1 2023, discounted any F2 races I've done, but my main league racing history, I finally picked up a win. It's been a long time since I've had that winning feeling to finally win a league race, and it happened here in SFR as well. But yeah, the commentator turned driver, but hopefully it's in the commentator's box this time. But Milan, are you looking forward to this feature race, mate?
I certainly am. Our sole Dutchman is out on at the front, lining up on pole position. We've seen how good his race pace was during the sprint race, so definitely will try to build from his current form. And if we look at the strategies, well, because of tire management will be quite important around here because it can be quite high. The tire wear can be quite high. So you don't want to push on pushing those tires too early on in the race. But if you look at the strategies, it is very mixed with about half the field on the mediums, the other half on the hard tires. But it's the top 3 at the moment here who are all starting on the medium tire. Then Keeves is the first driver to be on the hards as the Alpine has been disqualified already, even before we've reached the grid. But Keeves is on the hard tires. Then the 2 Aston Martins also on the mediums, as Klusser has messed up his qualifying position as well, so that might put him at a bit of a disadvantage off the line. We'll see about that. As long as Matti does it well on the parking, he messes up as well. So our front row have messed up their grid slots. Who knows if the Mercedes behind could have a good launch, but we can line up for this race. Different strategies all over the grid. It's going to be great fun, I feel.
And I'd like to mention as well, Klausner has never won a race in Division 2, and he's just won a feature at a sprint race. Can he keep the momentum up? Can the Dutchman drive? Can the Dutch driver? But the light's about to go away very soon in this race. Then there, the lights on the garage. Look, but never stir. The engines rev up. And we are underway here at the Australian Grand Prix. Mercedes gets a lovely launch off the line there, but I think Klausner might maintain the lead of the race. Oh, there's a spin in the background. That is Keith, who's gone for a spin, has lost his wing already. So he's made contact with somebody there, as a few drivers might go for towards turn 1 we go. But Klausner maintains the lead of the Grand Prix, ahead of Calvin in P2, Matty in P3, Mr. Wiggles in P4, with Ronnie there down the inside of him. In towards turn 3 he goes. I think McLaren driver's got to move done, but here comes the hassle on the outside. That shot trying to go around the outside towards turn 5. This is not a place where they go side by side, unconventional, but they're going at it. And Shot gets his way through up into P6 ahead of Doran. And that was a great move there. And a bit hesitant from both of them, trying to make sure that don't make contact, especially on the first lap of the Grand Prix. As you know, the first lap, you can make as many places as you can or lose them all. Depends how much risk you take as well. But Doran's under massive pressure from George. He's on the hardcore pound tyres as George there trying to go around the outside, going in towards turn 9. This is a risky move, but he makes it stick. Or does he? He just about to do it. But Doran's trying to come back into him, going down in towards 11. Here comes Mercedes of Preb. Now side by side, going down in towards the heavy braking zone. Preb gets ahead. Does he? Yes, he does. As we head down in towards turn 11, Preb is up into P8. And Doran has lost about 3 places already in this race, from 6th down to 9th, but Klausner maintains the lead of the Grand Prix then, as he was unchallenged at the starting phase. Calvin goes up into P2, Matty goes down into P3. This is a much better race with Calvin because his race pace didn't really display back in the sprint race, but now in the feature race he's showing some potential and maybe become a challenger for the lead of the Grand Prix as well. DRS then has been enabled. Prev 1 hits the wall on the outside. Kevin Magnussen did that, didn't he? But in 2023, and to say the punch, that's when the red flag came out. And that's when all the drama happened in the last couple of laps of the Grand Prix, when both Alpines crashed. And I think as well, Lawson and Sainz made contact. Nick de Vries and a Williams of Logan Sargent made contact going down in towards turn number 1, and all sorts of shenanigans too. And Hulkenberg finished in P7 on his return to F1 in the Haas as well. But the DRS then is enabled, and Calvert, this is the normal situation in a league race, Milan. Just sit patiently. The first stage is all about managing and treating your tyres very nicely as well, ensuring that you make it through a long way on the mid-core power tyres before you go on the hardcore power tyres later on in this race.
Indeed, you have to go for quite a long way, more than 10, 11, 12 laps at least, I think, on the mediums to make this strategy work. As we see a battle going on between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. That is Apex George defending against the Mercedes of Prep 1. He is on the hard tires, the Mercedes is on the medium, so he wants to get a move on and get ahead of that Red Bull and chase after the top 6. And that gap is already 2.7 seconds. So the pace that we've seen from Apex George in the sprint race, not really converted into his race pace here in the feature race, as he seems to be struggling quite a bit. Of course, he is on the hard tire, but so is Ronnie, for example, in P5. As we move for there, see that is the Mercedes up crowded up the inside of Klusser in towards turn 4, and we have got a new race leader, so we are going to fight it out on track, it seems like, in this first end. He almost hits the wall there on the outside. He might have hit the wall down there at turn 5, but now it is Klusser who will have the DRS off the back of the Mercedes. Will he immediately try to go for a re-overtake and put himself back in that leading position? Or will he try and stay behind for the main option? Here he comes now with the help of DRS. He is going to fight it out immediately on the outside of turn 9 and 10. They're going to go side by side. We've seen how strong he is, and that is almost a beautiful move, but still, it is Gravel who keeps it a long way down the outside. But now, Klusser will have the DRS once again, and now he's going to have the inside line for the braking zone. He should have the advantage, but they're going to go side by side. He covers the inside curve there a little bit, and that is, allows Gravel to stay around the outside. And now Matti is joining in on this fight as well. So Mercedes goes slightly wide, and here comes Klusser now on the outside of the penultimate corner. We'll turn it to the inside for the final corner, and that is going to allow him to take the lead back of this race. Behind that is Matti fighting it out with Mr. Wheels. What a fight we've seen here on lap 3, and neither of the drivers have DRS somehow, but here comes Gravel back around the outside, and Klusser will let him through to stay back in P2. Matti somehow holds on to that third place, with Mr. Wiggles following closely behind in P4 and Ronnie in P5 on the hard tires. But well, we just said you don't really want to fight that much early on in the stint and try to save up the tires to make the one-stop work, but then we really get proven wrong as they fight out quite aggressively here already on laps 3 and 4. Let's hope they will try to settle down a little bit more in the following laps, but it is Crowfoot now out in the lead of the race, and Klusser once again in second place. Will he try to fight back? This time around he's not using the battery as much, it seems like, as he will now close back, but I think he's a little bit too far behind to go for yet another move, so choosing to stay behind for the time being. He knows, of course, he needs to not burn up his tires too much, but now he gets a really good run once again out of turns 9 and 10, and he's going to get close to the back of the Mercedes. Will he send one up the inside? Yes, he will, to the braking zone there off turn 12. He goes side by side, yellow flags in the background. That is the other Mercedes who's gone off, but Klusser will go through to take the race lead once again here on lap 4. But these guys are really fighting it out here in the early stages.
They go and hammer a tongue here as well, these guys, and leaving nothing on the table, and this has brought the DRS back together. I think somebody in the background has lost their end plate too, because when they continue up going towards the final corner, I think shot hit the back of Ronnie and therefore sustained end plate damage too. I think this is one big DRS train as well, because all these guys who dropped backwards at the early stages of the Grand Prix are now back together. So all that fighting at the front of the field has brought this train back together again, from first all the way down to 8th with Doran on the back of it, as Doran they're looking for a move down the side on the Red Bull driver going down in towards the quick shot. He does have damage on the right side of his end plate there when they all continue up going towards the final corner. Martin says, "Evening lads, are you looking forward to the new DLC?" Not really, mate. I'm not really excited as I used to be anymore about the F1 game, so I've got no expectations. So we'll see what happens. Of course, we've got the new battery deployment, we've got the active aero, and that's something new added to the frame here. As Calvert then retakes the lead of the Grand Prix, the Norwegian driver puts himself back into first place as Ronnie on the hard compound tyres, progressing nicely, goes up into P4 ahead of Mr. Wiggles there. It's a very risky move going down around the outside towards turn 9, because if you carry too much speed around the outside, you're guaranteed to miss the apex in towards turn number 10. I think Sergio Perez did it plenty of times back in 2023, because the McLaren spun at Ronnie. Oh, what a shame. He made such good progress in the background there, and he was up into 4th place on the hard compound tyres. It was looking really, really promising. And here comes Klausler already as well. These two going hammer and tongue it for first place as Klausler retakes the lead of the Grand Prix ahead of Calvert then. So these two going at it. This is something you don't really see in Division 1, because in Division 1, usually every single driver follows each other and manages their tyres as well, but these guys are going at it every single lap. And this is what I miss about commentating for lower divisions, because lower divisions is unexpected as well. These guys don't play by the typical rules you see in the higher divisions. These guys going at it, and any time they can see an overtake, they will take it. But as long as they keep it nice and clean, that's all we ask for. They are fighting hard, but at least on the very limit of fair here as well. And these two respect each other as well, Klausler and Calvert. Klausler, who hasn't had a win in Division 2 at all, despite being there for about 5 or 6 seasons as well, as Mr. Wiggles in P4 is just outside the DRS, as Apex George is right behind Shot. Here comes the DRS, and on the back of the Haas driver, there's a VSC, as an Alpine driver has gone for an excursion somewhere on the track. That is BTL Wakey Joe, who became a cropper down at turn on the turn 10. So I wonder, yes he has, so he has lost his full end plate, and a pit stop will be necessary there for the RP driver. It's been a shocking start to his campaign so far at the Australian Grand Prix, but Matti is in the pit lane, and so is Shot as well. This is a very, early pit stop. 23 laps on hard compound tyres. Well, it may be doable, but a little bit difficult. The tyres at the end of the Grand Prix might be on a bit of a knife's edge. I think extending the first stint would have been better. Of course, they lose less track time, but Shot, however, does replace his front wing, so that actually might be an advantage for him, because under normal racing circumstances, he would have pitted and lost so much time. So that maybe be a good thing, a virtual safety car for him.
Definitely a two-stop, I think, for those drivers who have just pitted from the mediums towards the hards, because 23 laps on a hard tire is, well, almost impossible. And I don't expect the tire management to be that good. I would be impressed if they would be able to pull it off, but I think the two-stop is definitely the safer way to go to avoid a later puncture down the road, as DRS has been able to go back to green flag racing, and it is Kraubert who has taken the advantage, as he has just gone sailing around the outside of Clusher, caught Ferrari napping then at the VSC restart. So Kraubert now back into the lead of this race, and now since the Red Bull of Matti has split it, there's now a gap towards Mr. Wiggles of 1.6 seconds. So the two, the Ferrari and the Mercedes, have been left out at the front to fight it out in between the two of themselves. Maybe they will start to work together a little bit now. In this first stint, or else they'll have to come in quite early to replace those medium tires, as Apex George is now starting to come forward in this race, because he is on the hard tires, and maybe his hard tires will start to take the advantage over the medium tires after 7 laps of racing. And he is looking quite close to the back of Mr. Wiggles and might be lining up a move soon on the back straight, potentially to try and go for the final spot on the podium. That is what it will be at this stage, as the other Red Bull of Matti now gets ahead of Buttigieg. Of course, he's now on a brand new set of hard tires, so he definitely will have the advantage. He's got a 4-second gap to cover towards the next car, which is the McLaren of Alex. As once again our two race leaders find each other very close out on track, and I think definitely we will see a change of lead once more, as Cluster is all over the back of Kraubert, as there's yellow flags behind it. It is Alex who has gone off for a spin in the McLaren. That is out of turn 5. That is such a strange place to go off, as they change lead positions once again out in front, whilst Apex George now gets ahead of Mr. Wiggles, and he is starting to close the gap towards the top 2. It's 1.2 seconds himself separated from Kraubert. And he is rapidly gaining on those two drivers, with these harder tires having the advantage after 7 laps of racing. The gap is already down to under 1 second, but these guys up ahead, they will want to stay out for at least a couple of more laps to make that one-stop strategy work. I'm sure they're just going to have to try and keep it out of the wall, as that is Kraubert with a massive moment there on the exit of the final quarter, almost losing control over his Mercedes, but it was a great save from him to keep it out of the barrier. But that just shows how much these medium tires are starting to fade from underneath these two drivers. Once again closing the gap towards the Ferrari. Is going to send one up the inside regardless in towards turn 3, as they once again fight it out. It is all in favor of those who have just pitted under the VSC, as Clusser is able to stay in front of the Mercedes. But is that what he wants? Because now the Mercedes will have the DRS, not only him, but the Red Bull of Apex George is also very close behind, and both of them will have the DRS onto the back straight. Here comes the Mercedes of Kraubert once again, using the battery and the slipstream and the DRS to retake the lead of this race, now on the inside of the Ferrari, and through he goes back out in front here on lap 9. Here comes Apex George sailing very close to the back of Clusser, but not quite close enough to make a move in towards chicane, and loses out a little bit there on the exit, as now Clusser, he doesn't have the DRS, but he's able to stay close to the Mercedes. He's able to stay ahead of Apex George, and now the two Aston Martins are also back within DRS range, as that is Wakey Joe getting a 3-second time penalty. And what is Matti's progress looking like? He is 6.5 seconds behind the Alpine, and the Alpine is basically at the back of our race leader. So these guys out in front, they're going to go for a 1-stop, but Matti, who will go for one more stop, is already closing in on those guys out in front, as once again we fight it out in towards turn 1. So in the end, Matti might still have an advantage. Even if he does have to go for a 2-stop, he might just be around these guys. And here comes Apex George trying to go on the outside of the Ferrari in towards the braking zone there of turn 3. Will to will here go for second place. The outside will turn into the inside of turn 4, but Clusser is trying to keep it around the outside. Now they go well side by side through turn 5. Surely that's not going to work. Oh, and into the wall goes Apex George. He loses a bit of his front wing. That is an end plate gone. Oh, and he goes into the wall, and he's out of this race with the two Aston Martins. Apex George crashed out of the race, and a safety car has been deployed.
Wow, here's World has gone tumbling down very quickly, hit the wall on the outside of turn 5. Easy done, you carry so much understeer, especially in the dirty air. And unfortunately got tagged by another car. I think it was Mr. Wiggles who arrived on the scene and he tagged him. So unfortunately, A-Push George has been wiped out of this Grand Prix. And he will not be very happy indeed as well because he was looking very good on the hard compound tyres. But this has completely destroyed the race, the people that pitted under VSC, because these guys ahead of us can pit onto a new set of the hard compound. Well, MEFC is in a peculiar situation because he's on the hard compound tyres and we'll have to switch over to medium compound tyres. That's 17 laps on a set of medium compound tyres, which is not doable. So the safety car has came out in the worst possible time for him, as you have to nurture those blue compound tyres and a two-stop as well. If he does do a two-stop, that means it will completely lose a lot of time. So it's either way he's screwed, and that's what happens as well when you start on a set of hard compound tyres. You take the risk of an early safety car, as we see these guys then switch over to a new set of hard compound tyres. I am glad this safety cars came out because I am bursting for the toilet. I drank a lot of water before I came here, so I'm going to go to the toilet, Milan.
No problem at all, as we unsurprisingly see Matti continuing on his Ferrari. Fatboy's got a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and I don't think he will be able to serve that penalty on this pit stop, so that is going to haunt him for the rest of the race. But he's going onto the mediums, and like Jamie just said, doing 17-18 laps on those mediums, definitely not doable, even with massive tire management. So he's going to have to hope for another safety car, and he's not the only one. Also, MCFC in the Alpine, who has also gone onto a medium, will need to hope for a neutralization later on. Otherwise, he will have to go and make another stop, which will lose him a lot of time. But Matti is now our new race leader, having pitted under the VSC. But the cars behind him all have a 4-lap tire advantage, all onto a brand new set of the hard tires. Cluster and Mr. Wiggles as well, and Crawford of course in second place. Then it is MCFC who was on the medium, followed by Sagumero, and the Kicksauer was also pitted under the VSC, and he finds himself now in a very handy 6th position, ahead of Doran, who somehow hasn't picked up damage. I think I thought for a moment he hit the Red Bull driver, but I think he didn't. So lucky to escape without damage, as it was quite a hectic moment between the Red Bull and the two Aston Martins. And Energy Danny's in P8, also one of the drivers who made their pit stop under the VSC, and then the other RB of Billy G, who just made his pit stop onto a brand new set of hard tires, followed by Wakey Joe, who rounds out the top 10, also on those older hard tires, as we see Ferrari Fatboy has gone off down there at, what is it, turn 12 I think, ran out wide and just let the Haas driver through for some reason. Not sure what happened to the Williams driver, but he seems to be continuing on as he catches up to the field. And also Keeves and Alex having a bit of a moment in the final sector. Keeves, who we saw have a moment at the beginning of the race off the line, he went straight into the wall. Not sure if he got hit from behind or did he just lose it on traction, but he will be very glad with this safety car, because then he's able to close back up and try and charge his way through the field. He's currently down in P13. Made his pit stop just before the safety car came out, so a bit unlucky with that, but fortunate enough to still be in this fight. And he's going to try and move forwards in this race, get himself back inside the top 10, and hopefully score a few good points for Ferrari, who have been looking quite strong. Of course, Klusser, he's in a podium position. He's in the fight for the race win with Profit and Matti, but we are going to have 17 laps remaining. I think Ronnie will be able to close up the gap towards the rest of the field, so the safety car might go in at the end of this lap.
Indeed then, so Ronnie will catch up to the back of the field, but Matti has stayed out there in the hard compound tyres. I'm surprised he didn't fit on a new set of the hards or mediums, depends what he had in his disposal. I know some people like to use the harder option, so that means they have 2 sets of hard compound tyres opposed to 1, and the balance strategy is 2 sets of mediums and 1 set of hard compound tyres. The safety car, as you predicted, is at the end of this lap, so we could commence racing once again, and Matti will slow the pack down. But Matti is out there on a bit of a disadvantage because the guys behind are on a new set of the hard compound tyres, so this is going to be a difficult part of the race for Matti there on the hard compound tyres, because he will struggle especially with the grip, the performance of the guys behind as well. Night Creed has got a 10-second time penalty for collision there with either a Prep 1 or Ronnie, not quite sure which one it was, but unfortunately for him, he does have a penalty down there, P16, so it's gone from bad to worse for him. But here we go then. Let's see when Matty decides to pull the trigger to continue the second half of the Grand Prix. We just had a safety car. The safety car's in, and we can get racing once again. Expect MEFC to be very quick on those mini compound tyres, so watch out for MP5. It could be a massive challenger in this race, but of course, those mini compound tyres probably not make it towards the Grand Prix. That safety car timing was not the right timing at all. But Calvin is immediately under pressure, going down in towards turn 3. But Matty is super late in the brakes there, goes a bit wide, but still able to scoop the car up and stay in P1. But he'll be under massive pressure, I think, for the whole race now, because the guys behind on a new set of hardcore power tyres and mediums too. So Matty there will have a difficult race. It'll be a massive thorn in his backside there with the guys on the hardcore power tyres. As Energy Dan picks up a 3-second time penalty down in P8. Billy G is right behind him too on a new set of hardcore power tyres. Energy Dan is on the old hardcore power tyres in comparison towards his teammates too, so he might struggle in the second of the Grand Prix. MEFC is right at the back of Mr. Wiggles in the Aston Martin there, but decided not to make a move going down in towards turn 9. So Calvin did not get past Matty. Matty maintains the lead of the Grand Prix, but for how much longer though, that is the question, because it's going to be super difficult keeping the guys at bay on those hardcore powered tyres there. So Matty, well, I think he's delaying the inevitable so far. He's doing a really good job of it, but when it comes towards the last stages, those hardcore powered tyres for him will start to fall off the cliff, and therefore Calvin, Klaus and Mr. Wiggles might be able to make their way through too. So lap 14 out of 29, we're halfway in towards this Grand Prix. MESC switching lines there to try and overtake Mr. Wiggles, but not able to do so, has to stay behind him at this moment in time as Calvin rides the back of Matty once again, headed down in towards turn 3, but turn 3, sorry, the heavy breaker zone, but not able to make the move at this stage though, so he's probably waiting for the DRS. That's a wise thing. And Klausner, when Calvin overtakes Matty, Klausner has got to follow through very, very quickly, because if he doesn't, that means Matty could pull away, Calvin could pull away from Matty. Here we go then, on the other side of the island, as Pep 1 has crashed, and so is Wakey Joe. Another safety car has been deployed in this Grand Prix. I think those two came to blows down in towards turn 5, and Fat Boy is too far away to see that, so I think that those two made contact at the exit of turn 5, judging by the mini-map, and unfortunately those guys on the Grand Prix. Night Creed has picked up a drive-through penalty again, so that's another penalty added to his name, and his day goes from bad to worse, both Williams boys are at the back of the field at P16 and P17. So another safety car has been deployed. I don't really expect many people to pit, especially the leaders. What will Matty do? Will he decide to take it and box, but he will lose so much time and then be falling down as a P13 as well for good measure? No, he doesn't. I think that's the wise thing to do, because if he did pit, that's a lot of ground to make up, especially the new set of compound tyres where they're only about 2 or 3 laps difference. But Energy Dan and Oreo Glass have pitted. Energy Dan, I think, has overtaken Oreo Glass in the pit lane. Wow, what a nice career move there as well. He caught him off guard, and Energy Dan went through. Did a Sebastian Vettel-esque when Vettel back in 2016 overtook Hulkenberg and Carlos Sainz in the pit lane with an astonishing move indeed. Those two of Hulkenberg and Sainz slowed right down, and Vettel took the initiative to get past him on the pit straight and did it with a beautiful move indeed to gain 2 places. He finished, I think, P2 at the Chinese Grand Prix ahead of Danny Kvyat, and of course Kvyat, Vettel and Raikkonen were involved in that first lap contact when Kvyat famously got called the torpedo, and that's been his nickname ever since as well. And also, talk about Kvyat, it's been the 10-year anniversary since Max Verstappen won the Spanish Grand Prix 3 days ago today, 3 years ago this year. And the reason why I'm saying Kvyat, obviously, because Verstappen and Danny Kvyat swapped seats, didn't they? And Verstappen had the Red Bull seat. Both Mercedes crashed at the Spanish Grand Prix, and Rosberg and Hamilton took each other out. Verstappen, I think Ricciardo went to lead the Grand Prix, but Ricciardo had a puncture. They converted to a 3-stop strategy, which was the wrong time indeed, as Verstappen won the Grand Prix ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. What a remarkable debut from the 18-year-old of Max Verstappen, who won the Grand Prix at the Iceman. Kimi Raikkonen, one of the oldest drivers on the grid that day too. So yeah, that was a spectacular debut for Verstappen indeed. And you got to feel sorry for Danny Kvyat, because he lost his seat, and the man that took his seat also took his girl and his son as well. No, I'm only kidding. But But somebody sent me a message as well on PlayStation. That's why I'm laughing too. But Verstappen, well, 4-time world champion now with about how many wins he got now? 62, maybe more than that. I'm not quite sure.
70, I think.
70. Oh my goodness, made didn't realise it was that much. But MEFC is in the pit lane now. I did question this as well because he won't be able to take the mini compound tyres towards the end of the race. And now he's switching over to a new set of mini compound tyres. But these mediums could also fade away too. So that tells you that he had 2 sets of mini compound tyres in his disposal to use. But at least he does have a bit of fresher rubber on the car to try and take these tyres towards the end. That might relieve the pain a little bit as he rejoins at the back of the field in P13. So he gave up track position to put on a new set of medium compound tyres, and I think these mediums could go towards the end of the Grand Prix, but might have to pay the price a little bit towards the end too. So Matty is still in the lead of the Grand Prix, and if you had any doubts of him taking his tyres towards the end, I think he should be okay by now with 2 safety cars out in this race, and he's able to try and save tyres under these 2 safety car periods and take it towards the end of the Grand Prix. I don't think he has a chance of winning, given the pace of Calvin and Klausler. I think his chance of winning is imperiled and jeopardy as well, so I think he might struggle. But back to Verstappen, well, over 70 wins, 4 championships, God knows how many podiums and poles. He has been definitely one to remember as well. And Verstappen could have won the 24-hour Nürburgring, unfortunately for him, but he sustained, I think, a drive shaft issue, which pulled him out of the race. And if Verstappen won that, then it would be a very good thing for him indeed. But the safety car is in at the end of this lap. I can't believe, 10 years ago today, not today, but 10 years ago in this month when both Mercedes crashed and Verstappen would. I remember that race as well, clear as day. And now 10 years later, things have changed massively as well in these rules and regulations. There's a few people in the midfield picking up penalties, and a few people changing as well, so that's not good for them. I think, who was it who picked up a penalty? Quite sure who it was. Now, was it Energy Dan who put a penalty? I think it was.
Ferrari Fat Boy got a penalty.
Oh yeah, he did, sorry. He's down in P14, so that's another penalty there for Ferrari Fat Boy. But Matty will take us away then for safety car restart for the second time. But let's see then how he manages it. Out of the final corner he goes. Racing will continue again. There is 12 laps left to go in this race, and Calvin is already immediately on attack, headed down in towards turn 1, but he backs off as Matty still maintains the Grand Prix, as Calvin is definitely showing his appearance here, as Ferrari Fat Boy has sped in the pit lane. Ferrari Fat Boy is going for the penalty rewards in this race, as he's just pitted down the inside goes Klaus. So that's a risky move there, as Calvin goes a bit deep. The side-by-side headed down in towards turn before we go, but Calvin just maintains P2, and that would have been a headache for Calvin because he's trying to attack the race leader, but he's under pressure from the guy behind Klausler. He should be going forwards and backwards, should Calvin. But now, on one of the main straights we go, is he in a position to try and make a move against Matty? Here he is, they use the battery. Can Matty attack or defend against this? Here comes Calvin, trying to go alongside him, but runs out of road and runs out straight and stays in P2. The Matty is doing a sensational job, but for how much longer? Because Calvin there gets a much better exit and he moves himself up into P1, and Klausler has got to follow immediately there to try and stay with Calvin for the lead of the Grand Prix. And the safety car again has been deployed because Ronnie and MEFC are out of this race. Well, MEFC is out of the Grand Prix, but Ronnie has picked up major damage and lost his wing as Alex Haug has hit the back of Energy Dan, who gets a 10-second penalty. I didn't expect this race to go so chaotic, but it has done, Milan.
Yeah, it's something you sometimes see around Melbourne. It can be quite chaotic, and it certainly is at this occasion. We've got 12 laps to go right now. The majority is staying out, including Matthews on 11 lap old hard tires. But at the back, of course, both McLarens once again in the pit lane. They both pitted on the last safety car as well to go to a medium, which was quite optimistic to try and make that to the end. But now that's going to be possible with yet another safety car. But do they even have tires left? Yeah, Alex is going to have to go on a used set of hard tires to try and make it to the end. Of course, 4 laps, that's very doable on those hard tires, because there's cars ahead who have done way more laps on their hards. And Ronnie once again having to change his wing, as he was involved with MCFC. Not sure what happened between those two, but safety car brings safety car around here, that is for sure. as Ronnie also has to serve a time penalty. He's going to go on to Brandon softs, which is really optimistic. And it's also going to be quite difficult to try and make it to the end, as Ferrari Fatboy completely ignoring pit lane speeding, the speed limit, because he's just sped into the pit lane again. He didn't even slow down at all, but he's still going to make a pit stop. I'm not sure what's happening with the Williams driver, but he is into the pit lane as well. But we have got 12 laps to go. Calvin is now race leader, sorry, but he's now a race leader ahead of Matti with that tire advantage. And then Klusser in P3, and Klusser really needs to get ahead of Matti as soon as he can, because it definitely seems like he and Calvin are the ones with the better pace at this stage. Of course, Matti with the tire disadvantage will be struggling now as well towards the end, but these safety cars are definitely helping him out in trying to make to the end on these tires. So he should be fine on that regard. And then Mr. Wiggles and Doran, both Aston Martin drivers, looking quite handy as well for a good result. Especially when all these drivers, they're dropping like flies in these past couple of laps with all these accidents we've seen. The most recent one was on the exit of turns 9 and 10. And then before that we had quite a few incidents down at turn 5 as well. Let's hope they will be able to keep it clean when we go in for green flag racing. Presumably at the end of next lap, both Ronnie and Ferrari Fatboy have gone for a set of soft tires. So they would hope that the safety car stays out for at least a lap or two more to try and make it to the end on those soft tires, but it's still going to be quite difficult, I can imagine. So on lap 19 of 29, 11 laps remaining, Calvin, Matti and Klusser, those three have been fighting it out for the race win so far. Which of those three is going to come out on top? Can Calvin hold on to this race lead once we go back to green flag racing? Can Matti do anything on his older hard tires, or will he have to look rather backwards rather than forwards?
Indeed then, and Calvin won the Australian Grand Prix last season too, so he's definitely got a good track record around here. Has Calvin this season, 19 F Division 3 champion, as I keep mentioning too. But he's done a remarkable job so far, but there's plenty of work left to be done still, because there is 10 laps left to go, and Klusser will be on his tail, as he has been throughout the whole race. But there is an obstacle in the way in the presence of Matti in P2, but Klusser should be able to dispatch him if he can. But Matti has put up a stellar defence, which has come to an end now for the race winning chance, because I don't think he has any chance of winning unless something dramatic happens, being on those older hardcore powered tyres. But these safety cars have definitely helped his tyre preservation, and he's able to try and keep those tyres alive all the way to the end of this race. So the safety cars definitely helped him in that relegation and aspect there, because he pitted earlier on in this race, tried to do the undercut, but the first safety car pretty much interrupted that his chances of trying to do the undercut. He should have got ahead, but of course, the Division 2 spicing things up as well, with many safety cars in a race here at Albert Park. The safety car should come in towards the end of the next lap, because Ferrari Fatboy has caught up to the back of the pack. So there's one more lap of this safety car, as there is time is ticking out here at the Australian Grand Prix. Next race, I think, is at Monaco for the second round of the season, a mandatory 2-stop, and we'll see how people's brains are going to be switched on for that, because you'll be very, very smart about it. Energy Dan has picked up a 10-second penalty hitting the back of Keith. So yeah, that's not gone down well between those two at all. I'm pretty sure those two are in a party together, because they are really close, but not quite sure what's happened there to those two. If Energy Dan just misjudged his timing, but these safety cars pretty much resetting everything, and you've got to keep your focus at all times as well, because I know how jarring these safety cars can be, because you just at a constant slow pace, you're just slow, and you really want to get on with it as well. Because I know I hate safety car. Well, I don't hate them, but I hate when there's so many out there, because it really interrupts your flow, your momentum as well, your strategy, and you just want to get on with it as well. I don't mind one or two, but over three, I dare say, is definitely way too many safety cars, especially a track like this where you don't expect much chaos, but chaos can arise around here, as Milan Langer has left the session once again. So yeah, it's a shame, but I'm pretty sure he'll get back in there. But Ferrari Fatboy Joe has pitted once again. He's down in P13, so on a brand new set of, you know what, he's actually got rid of his penalties, you know. He picked up so many penalties and he got rid of them all, so he's penalty free. The only person in this race is Energy Dan, who has picked up a 3 or more second penalty. I think he's picked up 30 seconds to his name, so he's the only driver in the field who has sustained a lot of penalties. But Ferrari Fatboy has been relieved of his penalties, and maybe, do you know what, maybe on his new set of the mini-cup power tyres against people on the older hardcore power tyres, he could have a chance. So this is like a reset button for him in P13 on the new set of mediums, and could potentially make his way through the field as well. So this is a reset button now, a second chance in this race. And what can he do with his give a second chance down there in P30? Watch out for him. I really hope he has got some good pace and doesn't make contact with other people as well, and doesn't make any mistakes. But here we go, out of the final corner. Once again, the safety car is in at the end of this lap, and Klausler is immediately on Matty's tail as we go through down in towards Tier 1. He pulls out, doesn't go down the inside. Matty locks up on the outside too, but a slow exit there for Matty at the exit of Turn 1, given the old hardcore power tyres. Is Klausler going to make a move down into towards Turn 3? He's too far back, but he's got to make this move immediately, because if he doesn't, that gives more impetus for Calvin to pull away and try and break out the DRS range of Matty in P2. So Klausler has got to get his head screwed on here and get past him if he wants a chance of winning the feature race here, the Australian Grand Prix. However, somebody dropped back down the order. I think it was Ronnie or Haug, as Ronnie now goes up to P11. Ferrari Fatboys in P13 on the new medium cup power tyres. Somebody has gone through a adventure on the grass there as well for good measure. I think it was Energy Dan who's gone for excursion at the exit of Turn 6, but Klausler's not close enough to make a move on Matty. Matty's staying within DRS range of Calvin then. This is great pace for Matty, but look at the speed difference from Klausler through Turn 9 and Turn 10. He's got some monumental pace in those high speed corners, get closer and closer, so maybe when the DRS is enabled, he could strike and overtake the Red Bull driver Matty as well. But Matty could still maintain the podium here in P2, despite being on older tyres, as Keith, Ronnie and Oreo Glass all in a scrap for P8 there, as they sort themselves out. Ronnie on the soft core power tyres, Keith hits the back of the Kickstarter driver Oreo Glass as well, out of shape and coming towards the final corner. It's not looking good so far for Oreo Glass. He's out of shape again, as Keith is trying to put the pressure on, going down in towards Tim. Here comes Alex Howard on his hardcore power tyres there. As you can see, Keith is attacking and defending at the same time, going down in towards Tim. Alex Howard cuts the corner completely as he gets a 3-second time penalty in this race. And now Energy Dan is alongside the McLaren driver going through on the straight, as Energy Dan is a bit late to the brakes, goes up into P11 ahead of the McLaren driver. This is the moment where Klausler should strike now, because Matty is outside the DRS range. Klausler, you think, with the better tyres and DRS, he should be able to slide past him and get towards Calvin then. This is a big chance now for Klausler to get past him. Can he utilise this DRS and the battery and fresher tyres? Here he goes then. This should be the move he should make right now, and it is. It goes up into P2. Now he can focus on Calvin ahead.
Klausler has been released, has got ahead of Matty, and now he can look at the back of that Mercedes, but he has to use all that battery to try and get ahead of the Red Bull driver, so he has to save some battery as well in order to fight it out. As behind, they're fighting it out as well. Ronnie now on his soft tires, he's gone up into 7th place, but he needs to make it to the end on those soft tires, which is going to be easier said than done, because we still got 7 laps remaining after this one. As Matty already losing 0.7 of a second, and he's under full pressure from Mr. Wiggles for behind. So this is the fight for the podium, final spot on the podium. I'm sure that it's going to be Calvin and Klausler fighting out for a race win, but is Matty going to be able to hold on to those 16 lap old hard tires? In how bad shape are his tires at this stage? And Mr. Wiggles, he's got an incredible ERS advantage as well, and Matty has dropped it. He's down to 1.1 seconds behind Klausler, so he's going to be under massive pressure of the Aston Martin as we come on to the back straight in a few corners time. So Matty will have to look rather backwards rather than forwards, like I just said, as the safety car restarts. Here comes Mr. Wiggles with the help of DRS, ERS and Slipstream. I don't think there's anything that Matty can do to defend against the Aston Martin. Here he goes, sailing around the outside, and Mr. Wiggles finds himself in a podium position with the tire advantage as well. And it's looking good for him right now. And his other teammate of Dorman is now going to be looking at the back of the Red Bull. Here comes to the outside. It's going to be 2 positions lost for Matty, but he's going to try and stay on the inside and towards the braking zone. But in the end, he cannot defend. He cannot fight against the Aston Martins. That is Matty, who drops down to 5th place. And I think that is all she wrote for the Red Bull driver. Unfortunately, that was Dorman almost losing the back end in the braking zone. Really close, or he could have been spinning around, but a good save from him regardless. but he has almost dropped out of the DRS range of his teammates. So let's see if those two Aston Martins will work together in these final few laps. As Clusser, he has saved up some battery and he's now at the back of Calvin. And could this be his first opportunity to try and re-overtake, or does he want to overtake here on lap 24? Or is he just going to try and sit behind? Well, the things we've seen so far in this race, I don't think he's going to sit behind, because I don't think I've seen anyone in this race sit behind for at least more than 2 laps. So we'll see. As we come onto the back straight, it is closer in the Ferrari, but 5-6 tenths of a second, I think it's just a little bit too far behind at this stage. So he is going to stay behind for the time being. And Mr. Wiggles, he's done well to get himself within DRS range. Although I say that, he doesn't have the DRS, but he was within 1 second for a brief moment there. So he could try and involve himself as well in this fight, as Ronnie has got ahead now of BG, and the McLaren driver is up at the 6th place. So a good recovery time from him after that incident he had that caused the safety car incident with MCSC a couple of laps ago, as Clusser is 4 tenths of a second behind Calvin and is really starting to put the pressure on. And we've seen during the sprint race how quick he was and what kind of advantage he had. He was very handy in the turns 9 and 10 chicane, which is quite ironic because the word Clusser in Dutch means handyman in English.
Oh, does it? Handyman. He is the handyman indeed, is the Dutchman there in P2. And let's see how aggressive he is or laid back he is against Calvin now, because he's got Mr. Wiggles right behind him. So Klaus is becoming under pressure a little bit from the Aston Martin driver. Mr. Wiggles, who finished P3 the Drivers' Championship last season in SFR2, he's a very handy driver himself. There is the Aston Martin. 3 wins and 6 podiums, and his teammate picked up 5 podiums too, because both Aston Martin drivers are very handy indeed in P3 and P4. And now they're under pressure, they're on the attack against the Ferrari and Calvin too. Let's see what Klaus does, because these two are going at it on the whole race in the first stint, but maybe a little bit calmer now. I say that, it'll be a little bit calmer at this stage of the Grand Prix, but it goes wide at a turn 10, maybe carrying a bit too much speed for his own good in turn 10, so be very careful not to catch himself out, because it's easy done. Remember Timo Glock back in 2008 when he literally bounced over and smashed his car up too. Plenty of people in the past have gone off there too, I think, and Sebastian Vettel was one of those drivers too, where he went off, and Gutierrez, Massa as well, when he all smashed in the wall in the wet conditions in 2013 qualifying too. A lot of people have fell foul to that corner too, because it's very easily done getting caught out there on the outside of turn 11. So Klaus has got to be very mindful and wary of that as we head down in towards turn 1. When is Klaus going to strike? Will it be now, late on lap 29? You can see that Calvin is defending against his life there, but Klaus is not going to make any pressure so far, headed down in towards turn number 3. I'm not quite sure what Klaus is like in terms of his overtaking, if he goes for it later in the Grand Prix, if he's like those Division 1 drivers where they will send it later on rather than go for it immediately when they have the chance to do so. But if Klaus is smart, he'll have to sit back and wait. But look at that, Mr. Wiggles is right behind as well, so Klaus has got to anticipate what Mr. Wiggles is doing as well. As you can see, Calvin has got a good gap over Klaus too. It was Jack Doohan, now remember, Jack Doohan was the latest post-crash at turn 5, because I mentioned Kubica and Sebastian Vettel, but Jack Doohan was also another driver who crashed out down there at turn number 5 on his debut at the Australian Grand Prix. And what a shame for him indeed as well, because he he was under massive pressure already by Franco Colapinto, because Colapinto was the reserve driver. But Jack Doohan only had about 5-6 races left, and didn't make the most of them with those massive crashes he had as well. And yeah, just a shame how his career ended. But we're headed towards the final corner now with Klaus on the back of Calvin. Headed down the main straight we go. Can Klaus overtake Calvin down this main straight? Is it a wise thing to do? Should he stay back? As we head down towards turn 1, Calvin's taking a very acute angle going down towards turn 1 there. As we can see, Eddie Dan has retired in the pit lane. Klausner is on the back of him going down in towards turn 2. I think he should save the battery at this stage now, because he's running quite low, which means he could be under pressure from Mr. Wiggles behind, or Calvin could try and get ahead and stay ahead as well. So I think Klaus has got to work on his battery management as well, because he needs to use it at the right time as well. As we see him go through turn 6 and turn 7 we go, as he's used the battery out here too to try and get closer with the DRS wide open. Mr. Wiggles, when will he decide to attack? He's right behind right now, Klaus there, but I don't think he's going to overtake him on the straight. Here he comes, getting closer and closer and closer, and he puts the battery into none, saves the battery for the last 2 laps of the Grand Prix. Will Klaus get 2 wins in a row, Or will Calvert, the man that won the Australian Grand Prix last season in Division 3, win once again? Who will it be? Will it be Calvert Clousler, or will it be Mr. Wiggles, the Brit, in P3 ahead of the Scotsman and Doran in P4? As Shark gets past Ronnie, I think Ronnie's tyres are starting to follow the cliff here as well, because he's starting to go backwards now on those soft compound tyres. 9 laps old, they are way past their best there, unfortunately for him. So all the good progress he made in the early stages of the Grand Prix, he's going to slip backwards and backwards with those soft compound tyres, constantly degrading as well. So you have to struggle at this stage of the Grand Prix. 2 laps left to go in this race. Clousler is being very patient, being very methodical and wise too, not to overtake early, because if he does, I mean, Calvert gets the DRS. You can see Calvert there just weaving left to right, and I think he knows that Clousler will potentially save up the inside later on the last lap. So I think he should save battery on this lap if he can, save as much battery as he could in this last lap or two, and try and repeat the attack against Clousler as we head out of turn 6 there. Let's see if Clousler decides to strike right now before turn 9, or stays behind him and save battery and use all the battery on the last lap of the Grand Prix. He used the DRS there to get closer and closer. We know he's been very, very strong and reliable down into towards turn 9 and turn 10. Mr. Wiggles in P3 cannot get past the 4 driver. He's stuck there, and that's what happens as well when you're behind in the DRS train. You're stuck in the DRS train, and there's no way of getting past either. It's an unfortunate situation because you've got the pace to do it, but unfortunately, the guy ahead of you, you just can't the same speed as him, and there's no way through. There's no advantage towards the guy behind either. You're just hoping the guys in front start scrapping, and hoping you can try and slip past as well. But we're coming towards now the final corner to start the final lap here around here in Australia. This is when the fireworks will start setting up between these two. Calvert versus Clousler. Clousler already won the sprint race earlier on today, but can he go 2 for 2? Can he start the season off to a perfect campaign and get the ball rolling here in SFR? We've got the DRS now on the back of Calvert, but obviously, ideally, not good to go down the inside in towards turn number 3. Although he's under pressure from Mr. Wiggles behind as well, so watch out for Mr. Wiggles. But as Clousler left it too late, has not saved enough battery there. But as you can see, Calvert there puts the battery into none. That's the worst thing to do, putting the battery into none, because Clousler is right behind him too. But he's going to dump all that battery down this straight we go. It's Clousler close to make a move. Now, he's got the DRS at the back of him. You can see Calvert's relentless as well, coming through. Can Clousler make a move? He's vulnerable on the straight. He can't make a move. But out of turn on the turn 10, can he get the exit he needs now with another dose of DRS? Can he go down the inside in towards turn 11? Which way can he go? Left, right, left. It is left, down in around the outside. But Clousler cannot get past. Calvert defends beautifully against the 4 driver. Calvert has managed to do it. What a spectacular drive, as Mr. Wiggles is right behind Clousler, coming towards the final couple of corners on this racetrack. We're coming towards the final corner now, and Calvert, what an absolute stellar defence there from the Mercedes driver, the man that won the Australian Grand Prix last season. He's done it again. Calvert has won the Australian Grand Prix. What a spectacular defence as well. And Clousler will finish in P2. He'll be absolutely disgruntled because he tried to move up, but he couldn't do it as he has to settle for P2. Mr. Wiggles on the podium once again in P3. Doran P4. Matty in P5 ahead of Zoblu Schott, who retired in the sprint race. Billy G is P7 ahead of Ronnie, and Oreo Glass is P9 ahead of Alex Haug. Ferrari Fatboy 11th ahead of Keith, and that is the Australian Grand Prix done here for the first race of the season. All props to Calvert to defend beautifully against Clousler, because he had the battery to DRS, but he managed to defend at the right moments at the right time and held him at harm's length. Well done to him.
Yeah, well done indeed to Calvert's stellar defense in those final couple of laps. I thought that Clousler for sure would have a go, at least to go alongside what he did on the final lap on the outside in the braking zone of turn 12, but Calvert did very well indeed, and used those battery, saved up the battery and used it at the right times in order to stay just enough in front of the Ferrari driver. So a very well deserved victory it is then for the Mercedes driver, and a good weekend, it must be said, for Clousler as well. He got P2 in qualifying for the sprint race, then won the sprint race, took pole position for the main race and finished second. So definitely a great way to start of the season for both himself and Calvert and Mr. Wiggles in the Aston Martin. Both Aston Martins with a great comeback as well in the feature race to finish a strong third and fourth. Matti, in the end, fifth place. It will have to do with his star disadvantage. Held on close enough, but still showed strong pace all around here at Melbourne at what was quite a chaotic race. As we see that Keys has got a fast lap, but he was outside the top 10, so I don't think he will get a point for that. Definitely had some bad luck in his Ferrari. Contrast to his teammate, but a great race it has been. Of course, we saw some interesting moments with some accidents, but these things happen, especially around a very tight and narrow street circuit like this. But certainly was an enjoyable season opener, that is for sure.
And we've got 9 more races left to go as well. I don't think I'll be here for all of the races because I got a holiday in June. I'm in the Netherlands itself in June to do a race as well. So I think I'll miss a round or two. Plus, I'm going away to Norfolk as well in June. So mid-June and the end of June, I will be gone. So I think Milan Lange would be the replacement. But it's a pleasure to have you, Milan, alongside me in the commentary box once again. And I think the SFR guys are very happy to hear your voice again because they all missed you. And every single person, wherever we go, they like this duo a lot.
Well, I'm glad to hear. I like this duo as well. So. That's a good thing for sure, and it's been a pleasure to be able to commentate here as well, and I hope to do it a few more times this season as well. So I'm looking forward to our next time, and even when you're not there, I hope to at least fill in. So it's been a great race. It's been a great time commentating for SFR again, and cannot wait for the next one.
Okay, well, mates, and that is it then. The Monaco Grand Prix is next up, and that consists of a night race, which could be interesting. Reduced damage rate as well, so a lot of people who do end up in the barriers or hit the wall, hopefully not massive damage either, and a 2-stop mandatory strategy as well to conclude the Monaco Grand Prix. But here in Australia Down Under, we are finished, and we'll see you all next up in Monaco. And I'll be in Monaco soon myself as well, not to watch the F1 race itself, but to take a day trip as I'm going to Nice as well and to Monaco to have a little bit of a tour guide as well. So look, it's getting very interesting for me in summer. Netherlands, Nice, Norfolk, but I'll see you all guys later on as well. Thank you very much for having me, your long time commentator and friend. I'll see you all later.